So, Lee, have you listened to the latest Bruno Mars single?
Oh yeah, I've been bumping it.
What'd you think?
I mean, look, it's not like he's redefined himself. He hasn't. But I already loved who he was, and it's kind of more of that, and it's hooky, it's feel good. The first time I heard it, I saw the music video with it, so I got those vibes with it too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in his top 10 best songs, but I'm putting it on in the car for sure.
Yeah, I think I was definitely set up to be disappointed a little bit, in that the previous stuff was so distinct and special that this is just a normal good Bruno Mars song.
Right.
And that isn't what the last two projects were. But having said that, you know what one of my musical pet peeves is?
What?
The shout chorus.
And does it have one of those?
It does, right in the beginning. That's the first thing that happens. Is that I don't remember how it goes, but it's whenever someone does a chorus, it's like be da ba, and they're not saying words. They're just like,
what do you mean? Do 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 do
Yes.
do do do.
Exactly.
But it's a whistle. I don't think he says doot doos, does he?
I think he does. It's not a whistle.
Oh. I thought it. Yeah. I don't know, but it's definitely like a very like Jackson 5 major sounding little melody that doesn't have words.
Well, let me ask you this. Can you think of any song, and I might be using the wrong term too. I'm not sure if shout chorus is what you call it. That's just what it is in my head, which is essentially a vocal melody that is taking the place of where a song's chorus would normally be, but there are no words to it. They're just kind of doing like scat singing. And there's tons of these songs. There's tons of them. Can you think of any of those that's like a really great song, or that song that you really love?
I'm sure that there are. What about let me think. Hold on. No. Na 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 na.
Okay, that's not fair.
Why not?
Okay, fine. You win.
It's the most classic of all time, bro.
I feel like it may have been ruined for me kind of by like Mumford and Sons, right?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, to me, that kind of thing, it's called stomp clap. And it has that very distinct, and hey, oh, and it sounds like, a group of like drunk pirates stomping around, like a dinner floor. And it's been overplayed.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that kind of it doesn't strike me as cringy when it's outside of that genre,
That's fair. Well, it grinds my gears.
Yeah, I get it.
So, dude, a couple weeks ago, we had talked about athletes and athletes thanking their respective religious deities in post-game interviews. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, the very next football game that I watch, the Atlanta Falcons, who are not very good this year, come out and beat, I think it was the Rams, who are very good. And Bijan Robinson, who's a running back, he is the star of the game. And they interview him afterward. And when you and I were talking, we were kind of having this back and forth about, I was kind of like pushing you on, well, if you have divine intervention involved in your athletic pursuit, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of like the fairness of the game and all that? And you were making a very sophisticated point, which is that it's not necessarily about having like a God controlling what's going on. It's more about having someone who's there for you in the ups and the downs. And I thought that was a really great point. However, in the next interview I watched with Bijan Robinson, he said explicitly that God is controlling every single player on this team in his...
did he?
Yes, he did. Yeah. Which,
okay.
I think people kind of say things in the heat of the moment, so I'm not going to like hold him to that as his end-all, be-all belief. But it was a funny thing to hear after the conversation we had, because it was so on the nose. Because even most athletes' interviews, when they are thanking God or something like that, they don't say something like, they made that ball go across the line or something like that. They just kind of do a shout out. But in this one, he said, he was controlling every player on our team, which was just...
with puppet strings. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I'm curious about, Lee. Obviously not everyone who believes in Christianity or God or Jesus or whatever it is has the same set of beliefs. There's many different versions and variations of that.
Right.
How, do you identify with like a particular sect of Christianity or like a particular lane of Christianity?
Well, it's really complicated actually, because there's kind of different planes of categories. Right. So you have like the major categories like Catholic and Protestant. And then within Protestant, you have a bunch of different categories like Methodist, Baptist, and so on. And I suppose I would be I attend a non-denominational church. So like, I don't necessarily subscribe to like the Methodist doctrine or the Baptist doctrine. I don't really, I'm not even knowledgeable enough to know exactly what all the differences are, but I did. So there's another set of categories that I guess I don't really know where they exist on the planes of categories, because they kind of supersede the camps of Protestants being Baptist, Methodist, blah, blah, blah. It's more of just a strictly kind of theological category. One is called, and even this term kind of encapsulate it, like comes with some baggage. So it's like, it's very complicated. But my run-in with these things has been, one is called Calvinism, which was, I guess, formulated by John Calvin in some point in the past. And the other one I think is called Arminianism. And I'm not sure where it got its name, but the main difference is this point you're describing. Calvinism claims that there is a very rigid, and rigid is, I guess, a kind of a demeaning word, so I won't say that, but there's a very direct and literal controlling of every single thing that happens, and every single thing that happens is God's will. And so if something happened, it's because God intentionally chose and decided that it would happen and then administered its happening.
Yeah. What
Armenians believe, or I'm sure I'm butchering that term, not sure how you say it, but they believe that life is more of a mix of God's sovereignty and human free will. And their critique of Calvinism is that claiming that God's sovereignty and control is 100% comprehensive eliminates the existence of responsibility on the part of the human. And you can kind of just chalk things up, any given thing, even horrible things, up to, or your own inadequacies, your own lack of discipline or moral virtue, up to just God, this is the way God made me, or this is God's choice for my life. And so I side with that. I side with the camp that says life is some incomprehensible blend and dance of my agency, autonomy, free will, mixed with God's sovereignty. And I almost imagine it just in my own head. I almost imagine it like, if you can imagine like a three-dimensional, ever-expanding, giant, universe-sized web of moments that are all connected to other moments, and every decision that somebody makes shifts that moment in the web, and God is kind of restructuring the whole web based on every decision somebody makes in every moment. And so he's kind of like masterfully steering everything towards his ultimate kind of destiny, but he has to work within the decisions of every person, because as people we can choose evil, for example.
Right.
And so that's kind of where you get scriptures like God will work everything together for good. It's not like God is puppeteering the world to do good, but he'll work everything together. So that's kind of how I see it. Bijan perhaps subscribes to like the more Calvinist viewpoint, which is fine. But I would agree with you in the sense that like if I believed that, I would be like, it kind of sucks a little bit of the life out of the football game we're playing. So
yeah, and it sounds like what you're describing is closer to, in terms of a follower and God. It sounds like what you're describing is something closer to the sorts of relationships we find ourselves in real life. Like having a boss, which is a bad example for God, but just it's, they do their best to point you in the right direction, but you are still accountable and, must take responsibility for the consequences of like the things you do well and the things you do poorly. So it seems like that's a more intuitive relationship to undergo because we experience that in smaller ways all the time with our parents and our, people we work with and just the way life works. It seems like that is a natural extension of like our daily life. Is that part of the draw to it? I
mean, maybe subconsciously there are a lot of draws to it. One of which being, what do you do with the terrible things that happen? Is that all God's decision? And if so, how do you claim that he is loving and how do you trust him and how do you avoid, resentment? Versus if it's like God is the ultimate good guy and evil and bad things are a result of human free will, it seems like it's more consistent with what God's character is made out to be. Yeah. Which is ultimate good. So that's a big part of it for me is kind of like keeping his character pure.
Yeah. After I sent you that post-game interview with Bijan, you had sent me a post-game interview from a different game, which I want to talk about because it was actually pretty great. So there was another game where there's a team called the Baltimore Ravens, and they were in their last game of the season, and if they won, they get into the playoffs. And their kicker, and kickers are weird in football because they come on to kick field goals and they do almost nothing else. So they're not really involved in the game. And then suddenly all the pressure of millions of people is on this one kicker. And their kicker was a rookie, meaning it's his first year. This is his opportunity. It was the end of the game. If he makes this field goal, their team moves on and goes into the postseason. And this kicker misses. And the Ravens lose. And you just know, like, well, for me, I almost had a hard time sleeping that night.
Same. I was sick to my stomach.
I felt so bad for this kicker because, like, I just know, or I don't know, but I can only imagine kind of what he was going through. And like next day, like his coach gets fired. Like it's just it's not all his fault, but in that moment, I'm sure it felt like the weight of all of that was on him. Right. And you sent me this interview with I don't remember who it was, but it was one of his teammates.
Derrick Henry.
It was Derrick Henry. Yeah. Talking about talking to the kicker and talking about like God being there for him, and this is what you need to go through now, and you're going to handle it. And I felt so reassured to hear someone talk about that to him. And I'm not a religious person,
right?
So it was a good counterexample to the Bijan thing.
Right.
Because what you had talked about earlier was it's not just about thanking someone when everything works for you.
Right.
It's about what do you do when it feels like the entire world turns against you? Like, what do you have? Like, what is there? What is there for you? So I thought that was a good counterbalance to the Bijan thing.
Yeah, because I also would be very bothered if I never saw a post-game interview of the losers acknowledging God.
Right.
It would feel a little bit like, oh, so he's just your genie. Right. You know what I mean? So it also spoke to me in that way.
Dude, I've got a question for you that might be kind of personal. So, just answer it however you feel comfortable with.
Okay. All right.
But what has it been like? Because I know you didn't grow up a religious person. Mm-hmm. What has it been like introducing these things to your kids? And talking about these things to your kids, what has that experience been like for you?
Well, it's interesting. I have found myself grateful, just at various points in my experience of faith, that I didn't grow up with it.
Why is that?
Well, you never know with someone that grows up with the faith what version of it they're going to encounter and what potential traumas they might encounter within it or associate with it. There are tons of people that maybe have a good experience with their church or something as a kid, and then their pastor, has some scandal, and it just breaks all of their trust and kind of shatters everything they know about their faith or their relationship with God, and they question everything. Or maybe you grow up in a place that does kind of have this strict Calvinist viewpoint, and you learn that like God is like good, but he's also like a little bit mean, and and I didn't have to unlearn anything. I just came into it as a complete blank slate and got to really, like, as a fully formed, mature person, sift through it all and find, what I felt like was the truth. And so anyway, I don't say that to say that I'm like not exposing it to my kids by any stretch, but I like to keep it really, really simple and kind of just like give them the most essential pieces, and just let them enjoy like the innocence and simplicity of like Jesus loves you and that's it. Right. Because at the end of the day, that really is it. But as you get older, there's so many questions and so many, challenging things that come into your life, and you have to make sense of why and how, and, what your role is in the grand story of it all. And, so anyway, we pray every night. They go to church, and they're in the little nursery thing. So it's not like Bible school. So that, and my 5-year-old definitely asks me questions. She'll ask me like, who made God? And, I forget some of the heaters that she's thrown at me.
What do you say when they ask who made God?
Oh, you just say, we think of things as having a start, like when they started and then when they ended, but God has no start and no end. Yeah. And so it's hard for us to understand, but he never started. He was always there. I guess my answer to that is I try to deliver it to them like a child, like I am a child, like giving them the most innocent and simplistic and just essential pieces, emphasizing love. And I probably will always do that even when they're adults. So,
how do you guys think about, as your kids grow up and have access to more technology and screens and social media and all that, how do you guys think about what they'll be exposed to, and how to handle it? Like, for example, let me just ask you this. What is your kids' relationship with like phones, iPads, computers?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any. I mean, they're 5 and 3. Yeah. But they don't have a dedicated iPad or anything. We'll watch, a show or two every, maybe once or twice a week. We like shows from the 90s, like Bear in the Big Blue House, or like Mr. Rogers and stuff like that. Yeah. We try to show them low stimulation media when we do put them in front of the TV. But yeah, for now, that's all it is. It's just a movie or a TV show every now and then on the big TV.
And they don't necessarily have friends who have more access to it and feel like they're, I guess Mary's specifically, because she's 5, the 3-year-old is still, catching up. But at some point they're going to kind of understand. And I remember this from myself as a kid, they're going to kind of understand what everyone else is seeing and probably want it to a certain degree. I know I did when I was a kid, not with phones necessarily, but with like TV and video games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you run into that at all?
We haven't. I guess it just so happens. No, we do have some friends that, I think probably they're just too young to really put it together. Right. they just, when they're at their house, they have their iPad or whatever it is, and they don't really think that next step of like, I could also have that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's, our kids are, they really like calm.
Yeah.
Which is not a given with kids. A lot of kids just, they need a constant challenge, and like they like when things are loud and chaotic, and then they make chaos. And our kids will get the zoomies and like be chaotic and loud, or kind of get into those moods. But I think that they I don't know. I've heard that this is a common difference between boys and girls. And I think a lot of it too is just genetic. Like this is just how they are, right. Especially the older one. She just likes, she likes kind of having the space to like focus on a task. She likes puzzles. She likes to build, those marble little obstacle courses. She likes to play with dolls. Like, so I don't know if she would ever really kind of get sucked into like, doom scrolling, at least right. In the near future. But, things can change tremendously as they kind of get into the preteens, and I have no idea what that'll be like. So,
yeah, having spent time with you guys since they were born, the way I kind of, I realized this recently, the way I kind of think about your guys' family unit is like, it's like the way I think about like the Little House on the Prairie. I think, I think partially because you guys lived kind of in an isolated place,
right?
In where you lived before in Virginia, but that it felt like, and maybe it was the sort of religious backbone of what you guys had going on, but it just felt like you guys were like this little survival unit. You know what I mean? And right. I think that was very different from what, not from my childhood personally, but like from what I saw a lot in my childhood. Right. Like the whole thing when I was a kid, and this was probably true for you as well, that kids my age were doing was video games. Like when I went over to someone's house to play, the most exciting thing that could possibly happen is that we sit down and we stare at a TV for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It was, it was very exciting and fun. But looking back on it, I didn't think of any of my friends and their families as these like tight-knit units that, it doesn't mean everything's great all the time, but they kind of had this singular focus together, or something that really ties them together, because the most exciting thing you could do was to kind of like zone out, or,
right.
It was to disengage and engage with something totally different.
Right.
And, thinking about, being a non-religious person, I wonder how to fill that space, or how to find a backbone like that,
right.
to kind of feel tied together the way I feel like you guys are.
Well, that's really beautiful. I love that you perceive that. I think that all comes from my wife. Like, I think that she values so highly us being close, all of us being close.
Yeah.
So like we have we sit down together for dinner every night, and we talk about our day, and we talk about the best part of our day and the worst part of our day, and everybody gets a turn. And like, when I'm not working, we're doing stuff together. It is a very intentional, like, we are spending time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would like to think that I would have just naturally kind of gravitated to that same way of being, but she made sure of it. And so now that's the rhythm of life. That's our routine. But yeah, it's really a testament to her. And I notice the same thing sometimes.
I think a large part of it is because when Mary was born, it was COVID, wasn't it? It's like 2020.
Yeah.
It was COVID. And like, we didn't have, we were still just like a little tiny indie band at the time.
Right.
And I feel like I kind of saw you like shoulder that responsibility. Right. And that's where I got the sense of that, like, on the prairie survival feeling of like,
right.
You were kind of playing the game on hard mode to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I think going through that at an early stage of like being a family it just strips everything else away. It's like, it's us. Right. It's us, and we got to get through it. And it's not like I don't think you guys were suffering badly or anything like that. But, you know, it's not like everything was just on a platter there for your life to be easy in all ways. So I think that might have had a lot to do with my perception of that, was just that, like, Fulton Lee wasn't a, you know, multi-million, you know, follower Instagram. We were just an indie band trying to figure it out at the time. Yeah.
I mean, that, and it's crazy to me when I think back on that time, because it's honestly, like, I don't even want to talk about how little money we had. Like, we had no money, and you know, the brand wasn't generating any money at all, and I had several side jobs, and I just had this delusional, like, it was like never a question. I was still gonna pursue the music thing, and that was still gonna be what ended up happening at some point down the line. But I just had to find other ways to make money, and it got, you know, it was dicey, super dicey.
Yeah.
And I 100% can credit that pressure to the eventual success of the brand.
Yeah.
You know, I have very much learned about myself that when, just like we were just talking about Caleb Williams earlier, like, when the pressure is on and there's kind of like no other way out, and it's like really a situation I shouldn't be in, you know, but I kind of put myself there. I feel, you know, all of this, not only pressure from like a literal sense, but I feel judgment from people around me. You know, it was so many things. And I think I don't know, I kind of I do my best work, you know, in that space. So yeah, it's crazy to think about, and I'm very lucky that it ended up working out, you know.
Are there any like cultural elements, like movies or music or books, that you enjoyed as a kid that you're excited for your kids to kind of be old enough to like process and enjoy for themselves?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like, you know, all the Pixar movies are going to be awesome.
I got to think Mary could do a Pixar movie at this point, right? Like a Finding Nemo or something?
That is a great, and I would also have thought that, even being her dad, I would think that, but she's very, very sensitive.
Okay.
Very sensitive when it comes to like things
Sharks.
that are scary or things that are like emotionally intense.
Yep.
We just sat down to do a movie the other night, and we always watch the same two movies. It's always either Cinderella or Frozen. And even Frozen isn't so bad. Frozen 2 gets really intense, and the only time we watched Frozen 2, Mary basically sat in her mother's lap and buried her head into Hannah's chest for like 2 hours straight and didn't say a word.
Like after
she
the
was
movie?
After the movie. Like she was shaken up, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, the only movie I could find was, like, there's a modern day version of, like, Charlie Brown. Yeah. And there's just nothing. It, like, nothing happens, you know? Yeah. It's just kids, you know, talking to each other. But, yeah, I mean, there was once, I think we tried to watch Ratatouille, because I felt like that was the most mild, you know, Pixar.
Dude, that opening scene is there's, like, a grandma with a shotgun trying to shoot the main guy.
Immediately. Mary was like, I don't want to watch this. So, yeah, we are definitely not there yet. And it really made me realize how intense all of those, like, dude, Finding Nemo, the opening scenes of Finding Nemo are crazy.
Terrifying. Looking off into deep water. Like,
oh my God. And that fish. And somebody dies. Somebody dies in the first 5 minutes of Finding Nemo. Like, that's a kid's movie, dude? What?
I still think of Toy Story. I don't think I've watched Toy Story since I was like 8. I still think of it. It lives in my head as a scary movie.
Yeah.
Like
because of Sid's room.
Scary movie because of Sid. There's like the creepy toys that walk around.
Oof. Yeah,
I still don't think of Toy Story with any joy. To me, it's just trauma.
Yeah,
and I was probably older than Mary when I saw it. I was probably like 7 or something like that.
Yeah, see? That exactly. But yeah, I mean, that Toy Story was actually that was my jam. Buzz Lightyear was my was my thing. But yeah, I don't know when we'll get there. But it's that kind of thing that I'm like, Mary isn't inclined to, I don't know, video games, media, like different things. Like she obviously will get there, but like for right now, she doesn't, I don't think she even wants it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you guys, my perception of her environment is that she's just probably not exposed to it that much. And, like she have a lot of like little boys running around being terrorists all the time, like that, right. It's like not really going to be her cup of tea. I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say this sometimes that like, cause when you have two littles, cause we have two under 6.
Yeah.
It's, it's the trenches. It's no joke. And it's like, life is so rewarding with them. And it's also so, like it's hard to find balance, because you're always, there's really never a time to like mentally, rest until they're asleep. Right. And everybody kind of knows that, and that it's the trade-off. It's like the most rewarding thing in the world for the most demanding thing in the world. But the glory days, like the ultimate reward for all of the effort that we're putting in is going to come when they're both like 18 and 16 or like 25 and 23, and we'll probably have, we'll see, we may have more kids, but when they're all like young adults, like in their 20s or in their late teens, it's going to be just a little community of people. They're going to be our homies. Like, I'm so excited for that,
Oh man, I hope you're right. And I think even when things don't turn out that way, you're still right. Like, I think if any of us think about our parents now, we're kind of around in our late 20s, early 30s. It is like that, and that we are boys with our parents. But it's just the adult level of it's the complexity of that, where it's not just that you have the darkness of adult life creeps into it somehow, such that you're gonna have 2 teenage girls in your house, dude. That's a whole different can of beans.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I feel like it's gonna be the best era of it all.
I mean, I hope so. But you're going to be the single male in a house of women, and I don't know if that's always as fun as you're framing it to be.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, none of them like football as of right now, and that's probably only going to get worse. But I don't know. I can't. Just because and obviously I guess things can change. I just know them so well right now, and I just can't imagine it being anything but great. But maybe these are like my famous last words. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's going to happen so gradually that each step along the way won't feel like I'm here now. It'll just be, this is how it is until you're at that point.
Yeah. It's
just a weird mind game.
Yeah. Yeah. I there's going to, I'm just thinking through all of like the dicey things that we're going to have to navigate and stuff, but it's like, I don't know, man. I can, well, let me not say anything about, I was going to go into something that I shouldn't go into. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, let me ask you this. And, I think we're both pretty open-minded people, and this is not to be kind of essentialist about what it means to have a boy or a girl, but how differently would you feel about that thinking about a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old boy?
Well, it would depend on if they were 5, what they were like right now.
Yeah. Dude, come on. You know what your 5-year-old boy would be like.
How so?
They would be way into football. Way
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
they would want to be.
If they were, then I would feel fantastic about their teen years.
Yeah, but then they're gonna like play high school football. You're gonna start to get worried about what position they're gonna play, how much playing time they get, who is the coach, what are the mean kids who it's just.
No, that gets my blood pumping. Like I don't know. That feels like I was born for that. You know, I want to be there for them. Like
Right.
I think that's what I'm so excited about. Is like right now, you know, this morning Mary had completed a puzzle and she was trying to bring it downstairs on this tray and she dropped it and it was devastating. And I was there for her. You know, I like. on one hand, I was like she dropped like half of it, and because she kind of tripped a little bit on the steps and like fell on her butt, and she dropped like half of it. And she started crying,
right,
loudly, and I walk over there, and then she kind of like slides her butt like down 3 more steps, and the rest of the puzzle like explodes, and I'm like, Mary, what are you doing? And then I started, and I was like, it's okay, you know, and I hugged her and.
Right.
And I was like there for her, and that's all fine. But really, in the end of the day, that's just an exercise of patience on my part, because that incident is actually in reality such an insignificant thing. I have to act like it's not insignificant in order to be there for her. But when she's a teenager, her hardships will be real hardships, and we're gonna have real conversations, and they'll be much more real than a broken puzzle. And
that's true.
And I'll be able to relate, you know, I'll be able to remember, you know, I can't remember when a puzzle was that big of a deal for me, but I'll remember when teenage problems were a big deal, and I'm excited to be there for them during those times, you know. Yeah,
I teach high schoolers, and so I spend a lot of time with teenagers, and it is such a fun group of people to spend time with. It's going to be as fun, I think, as you're imagining it. Okay, man, let's wrap it up here.
All right, cool.
Sweet, dude.
Cool beans.
I'll catch you next week, man.
Next time. Peace out.